Today, we're going to unpack a pretty intense idea from our source material, the political death spiral. It's all about how a nation can be in free fall, but actually mistake that feeling of acceleration for being in control. To really get this, we have to start with this powerful metaphor. Just picture it, a pilot, hands on the controls, fully believing they're flying the plane, but in reality, they're already falling out of the sky. That gap between perception and reality, that's what we're talking about today. And yeah, this isn't just a lesson in aviation. The whole argument from our source is that this falling plane, it's a dead ringer for the current state of American politics. So let's dive into part one, the illusion of control. We're going to see how this dangerous feeling of being in charge can completely mask what's really happening, and how sometimes the things we do to fix a problem actually make it so much worse. You see, this is what makes a death spiral so incredibly dangerous. It's not just that you're going down, it's that the pilot's gut instinct to pull up to correct course is the very thing that tightens the spiral and makes the plane fall even faster. The solution literally becomes the problem. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. Because while it feels like the country is more divided than ever, our source makes the case that there's a kind of shared, hidden faith that actually unites both sides. And this slide just nails that argument. You look at two political extremes. On one side, you have a push for justice, dignity, and inclusion. On the other, a push for order, identity, and hierarchy. I mean, their goals seem like polar opposites, right? But look closer. The source points out that they both share the exact same instinct: turn to massive, centralized federal power to make their vision a reality. To really get this, you have to draw a sharp line between two words: trust and faith. Trust is something you earn. It's based on evidence. You trust something because it's worked before. But faith is different. Faith comes before the proof, and it can survive any amount of failure, any amount of evidence to the contrary. And this quote just captures that political faith perfectly. It's the belief that all the past government failures don't mean the machine is broken. No, it just means the wrong people were at the controls. It'll all be different once our side is in charge. So what happens when faith replaces trust? Well, politics stops being a debate over who's more competent. It turns into this high-stakes, all-or-nothing battle for the very soul of the nation. Every election becomes the final showdown between salvation and total ruin. All right, so how does this shared faith actually make things worse? Well, that brings us to how the spiral tightens on itself, creating this dangerous feedback loop that actually gets stronger from its own mistakes. You start to see a pattern. The logic of the spiral has only one answer, no matter the question. Economic problems, we need more federal management. Cultural divisions, more federal management. Chaos at the border, you guessed it, more federal management. And here's the kicker: a deep distrust in our institutions, the answer is somehow still more federal management. And it becomes this crazy self-feeding loop. Here's how it works. First, the government tries to do too much, which creates instability and makes people lose trust. Second, that instability scares people, and they demand that someone take control. Third, the politicians' only answer is more centralization. And fourth, when that inevitably fails, it's used as proof that they just needed even more power to begin with. The system literally feeds on its own failures. And the price we pay for being stuck in this thing is huge. Our source says we lose at least 4 crucial things. We lose our liberty, we lose accountability from our leaders, we lose a sense of realism about what government can even do, and ultimately, we lose the very ability for people and communities to thrive on their own terms. So, all of this leads to a really big question, one that challenges the entire way we think about politics today. What if all this fighting about who should be flying the plane, the left or the right, totally misses the point? What if the problem isn't the pilot at all? The source is asking us to consider a radical idea. What if the system itself, the federal government, has just gotten too big? What if it was never designed to carry this much weight, to make this many moral decisions for 330 million people? What if no one, no matter how smart or well-intentioned, could actually fly this plane anymore? All right, so if the problem is scale, does that mean we're just doomed? Well, our final section looks at a possible path forward, a way to actually get out of this spiral. The idea our source puts forward is a principle called subsidiarity. It sounds kind of academic, but the concept is actually pretty simple. It just means that problems should be solved at the lowest, most local level possible. Not every single issue needs to be a national crisis decided in Washington, D.C. And if you think about it, the benefits could be huge. It would immediately lower the do-or-die stakes of every presidential election. It would create room for different states and communities to try different things. And maybe most importantly, it lets us fail on a smaller scale, where you can actually learn from a mistake instead of having it become a national disaster. Now, let's be really clear about something. This is not about getting the left and the right to compromise and meet in the middle. The source argues this is about changing the entire game. It's an alternative to the whole broken system. So why is this spiral so hard to escape? Well, let's go back to that pilot one last time. For the people inside the cockpit, for the people pulling the levers, the G-force of a downward spiral doesn't feel like falling. It can feel like purpose. It can feel like urgency, moral clarity, even strength. And that, right there, is the core tragedy of it all. The real problem isn't just that the two sides are at war with each other, it's that they secretly agree on the most important thing. They both have this unshakable faith that the giant centralized machine can save us if only their side gets to control it. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from the source. The plane isn't falling because of the pilot. The plane is falling because it was overloaded. It was asked to carry too much weight, to make too many decisions, and to mean too much to too many people. And so that leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling question to think about. As the spiral seems to tighten day by day, you have to ask, can a republic really survive when this endless faith in centralization is mistaken for the only realistic path forward?